your average police department, despite that in the United States, is something like 5 officers.
Right, yeah.
And you know, they might, you know, you might live in Beckenham in South London. Well, Beckenham would have a separate police department to Croydon Police Department.
Of course.
They'd have different rules of engagement. They will have different firearms. They'll have different training. They'll have different budgets. You know, and so to try and to lump everything into one thing, you know, there are undoubtedly police departments that cover, you know, very poor areas where the officers that are recruited aren't well paid, aren't particularly well trained, aren't particularly well equipped. So it's a totally different thing to the United Kingdom.
And it's a difficult one, and we could...
Of course, sorry to interrupt, different, of course, to, say, Spain or France or Germany. And I think if you're going to equate arming the British police, you're better off looking at the European example, because do controversies happen in France? Well, of course they do.
Of course.
But not to the same degree
as what they're happening
as we're seeing in the United States.
I mean, with this country, I mean, the Met Police, for example, there's 31,000 or so officers in the Met at the moment, and 2,100 are armed, so looking at just under 10%. Is that not sufficient to protect London? I mean, I was an ex-police officer, as you know, and I wouldn't want to have carried a gun.
And that's fine. You know, I mean, you know, the reality is that if you couldn't arm the police overnight. A, it would take years. B, you've got officers such as yourself who joined with no expectation to carry a firearm, and you couldn't then expect them to carry a firearm. You know, when I joined D11, as it was then, now at SCO 19, in 1983, I joined as an instructor, and there were 40 of us training 4,800 officers to carry firearms. Here we are in, you know, 2016, and we're training 2,000 officers, and there are 100 instructors. So the smaller amount are better trained. You know, so it's a different thing. So I know what the standard was like in 1983, and I know what the standard would be like, you know, if we had to train 30,000 officers. So, but that said, from a moral standpoint, and I always cite, you know, perhaps wrongly, I always cite the Lee Rigby incident. You know, it's a terrible, terrible, tragic incident. And it took the armed response vehicles, I think, 15 minutes to get there. Now, what that meant was that the ordinary local bobbies that responded to that situation for 15 minutes basically had to stand by, through no fault of their own, and watch the public do their job for them. Now, that's the other end of the argument. Is that acceptable?
There is very, very strong arguments here. And, you know, we've had a little look at your book. This is your book, Lethal Force, My Life as the Met's Most Controversial Marksman. You say about the training, you know what it's like to carry that gun. You know what it's like to shoot someone and have to shoot someone as part of your job. You've shot 5 people in your span as part of that in 25 years. 3 of them died. That first one that died as a result of you shooting them, that's where that training comes in, because that, I mean, mentally, that must take its toll on you, Tony.
I'm not wishing to sound callous, but really, if you shoot someone, you shoot someone. You know, it's out of your control whether or not they die. And it's if you take the decision to shoot someone, then you're taking on board the fact that you may kill them. The first person I shot, he was stabbing a little girl, and I shot him at virtually point-blank range in the head because it's all I could see, because he was using the little girl as a shield. The bullet penetrated his skull and into his brain, and he survived. Now, you know, so in all intents and purposes, he should have died, but he didn't. You know, the human being can take a massive amount of physical. Look at the people that have come back from Afghanistan and Iraq with limbs missing, and you know, the human being is a very strong creature. So, in terms of how, you know, dealing with it, if you've pulled the trigger on another human being, you've done so with the understanding that they may die as a result of your actions.
And that's all part of your training. And a lot of what the book focuses on is the case of Azelle Rodney, where you were charged and faced a murder trial 9-10 years after his death, wasn't it?
10 years after,
And the impact of that you touch upon a lot in the book. Unfortunately, we're not going to have a lot more time to go into that with you now, but...
People have to know about this weather, Tone. The weather, it's a big deal on this show. You know, it's very important these days. But it's all available in the book.
The book came out
is
yesterday.
Out now. It is out now. Tony, it's a pleasure to speak to you, and your story is absolutely incredible. So thank you for joining us this morning, and I look forward to having a good read of it.
It's a great read.
Hello, YouTube. For more of the same, just click here, and don't forget you can subscribe for even more of these amazing videos exclusive to our channel.
Probably having to put my leg on every day, or like waking up and having to use crutches just to go to the bathroom or into kitchen. I think that's probably what I find hardest, because it's what's changed most, not being able to just jump out of bed and get on with day.